Steve.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It must be Tuesday, and you just popped up on my screen like clockwork.
Look at that. It's amazing. I feel like we haven't really been able to connect much since the year started. So I'm happy to be able to be live with you and share an amazing guest we're going to be having on soon.
Yes, yes. This is Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. We're here every Tuesday night from 6 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we do have an amazing guest. But before we start that, it's Tuesday, and Tuesday. It's a special day every Tuesday because we get to do our show. We choose to smile, we choose to love, we choose to help, we choose to be kind, we choose to be happy, and we choose just to be you. So happy Tuesday.
Thank you. Happy Tuesday to you too. I feel
Yes.
like I feel like my daughter said something yesterday that was pretty amazing. She said, she wanted to like have her hair done special. And I said, well, what's the special occasion? And she said, what does occasion mean? And I said, like a birthday or whatever. And she's like, the occasion is that it's Tuesday. And I was like, that is so profound from a 5-year-old. Like, you're right. You're 100% right. The occasion is it's the day we're alive. Perfect.
That's right. That's right. And I understand a couple of years back, when you were in New York, you got to be part of the New York Stock Exchange ringing that bell. How did that come about?
Oh my gosh. So I was just minding my own business, hanging out like at home at night. It was like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. I got a phone call from the organization that I was with, Long Island Center for Professional Women. And they said, hey, do you want to come with us and ring the bell at the stock exchange tomorrow? Which was the last thing I expected coming out of anyone's mouth. And I was a teacher, but I immediately said yes. And I was like, I'll figure it out later. So I said yes, hung up the phone, did sub plans, got the kids taken care of for the next day, and got up really nice and early and was able to jump up and down and be excited, screaming for the stock exchange opening and meeting a bunch of cool people and seeing the behind the scenes. It was such a cool experience. It just reminded me that when the universe gives you opportunities, you say yes and you figure out later how you're going to make it happen.
That's right. That's kind of like what you do now as a mother. You wake up early, you jump up and down, screaming and yelling, right?
Sometimes actually screaming and yelling. Yeah, I think, and you never know, and you literally still never know what's going to happen. Like, oh, we're doing this now. Oh, okay.
That's right. Now, our guest today is an author, but you're an also author too. Tell us about your book.
So I wrote the book Big Love Shouldn't Hurt to share my story of overcoming the cycle of toxic relationships in order to really inspire other people to know that no matter what they've experienced, no matter what kind of toxicity they've had in their lives, at any moment they can decide to make a change and create a different life for themselves. So this is my book that shares my story. It also shares some red flags, green flags, and other tips and tricks on how to heal and thrive after a toxic relationship. And there's also a workbook along with it that you can get to start working through on your own.
How can people get a hold of that book?
You can go over to Amazon and just look up Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt, or you can go to my website, beinglovedshouldn'thurt.com, and you can actually get a signed copy of it if you go to my website.
You also have a podcast that is going on every week. Congratulations on that. Tell our viewers and listeners out there about that.
Sure. So I have a podcast called Toxic Love Transformation. It's a new and noteworthy top 2% podcast, which is really exciting. Sad in some ways in that it's so popular because there's such a need, but, amazing in other ways, of course, because the people that do need it have the ability to listen. And, we have amazing guests. Actually, one of them that's going to be on this show is actually on my podcast as well. But we have amazing guests. We get, to share a lot of great information with people who are looking to really heal after the divorce or breakup and really move on and create something different for themselves. So definitely check it out. If you go to toxiclovepodcast.com, you can go right ahead. You can check out, I think we have 45 episodes at this point.
Wow, 45 already. Congratulations. Well done.
If you subscribe and write a review, you actually get entered into a transformational VIP day with David and I. So go ahead and do that so that you can get the chance for that VIP day.
Well, I'm signing up. And, you're a big part of our network, our Chapters Network, that we've been a nonprofit for a number of years now through networking, collaboration, a platform, and support. Our program is Divide for many, many years now, but also providing that platform, collaborating with other nonprofits, providing that platform and support and empowerment for others as well. We're now in 2024, we've broken it up between Chapters Network. We have our Chapters Community Support Services, Chapters Network TV and radio media platform, Next Chapter Distribution Center, which we give out food, clothing, books, and toys to families in need. We just did one this past Saturday. And now we have a Chapters Network All-Star Band. So we're going to be traveling around doing all the different facets of what we're doing on the Chapters Network. So I want to thank you for all that support. This past Saturday, we were in Long Island giving out food and toys and books and medical supplies to so many, and clothing to so many people out there. People lined up getting that free food. We don't want people to sign up for it. They just come, get what they need. I want to thank everybody that came down and supported us and volunteered for their services for doing that. But we have a loaded show here today, an amazing guest. Why don't you introduce her, Steph?
Sure. So we are going to be having Melody Murray, who's an accomplished, not only was she in TV before, but she's actually moved on to be able to help others in their healing from all sorts of different, childhood backgrounds, toxic relationships, all that good stuff. She's a great guest, really fun to talk to. And she's actually also an author. So I'm excited to bring on Melody so she can share her story.
Yeah, Mourning the Living. That's great. Melody, are you there?
I am here with a haircut.
There we go, with a haircut. Thank you for joining us today, Melody.
Absolutely, absolutely. A pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So you guys know each other, right?
Yeah, well, Melody actually was on my podcast, and the funny thing is that it's actually going to go live on my podcast today too. So we're getting a little double down action from Melody today.
Wow, that's awesome. You're just doing great things, but Melody, you're doing great things too. That book looks amazing. Talk about the book first.
The book was a labor of love. What prompted me writing the book was my relationship with my older sister, who ended up taking the road that our mom did, which was a dysfunctional road. Our mother was a drug addict while we were growing up, and there was all kinds of abuse. And, as hellish as it was to grow up in that environment, my sister had, a series of horrible things that happened to her. And I think that just the weight of so much unhealed trauma became too much for her. And she ended up going down the same path. And so she became a drug addict in her 40s and abandoned her children. And, it was a difficult thing to maneuver around her, help her children, try to help her, and protect myself simultaneously. It was really, really hard. And so ultimately what I had to do was, set boundaries with her so that I could maintain my own protection and self-preservation. And, she's doing her thing. But the reason is I knew that there were so many other people that were going through the same thing, needing to figure out how do you set boundaries with people that are the closest to you. And I've been working with my own clients about the same issues. And I just knew that, so many people could be helped by my story. And so that's why I wrote the book. And each chapter is a different relationship dynamic. It's not a memoir. It's a toolkit. It's a toolkit on how do you handle yourself with, toxic people that are around you.
Well, Mel, I got to ask you this question. When you were going through that, how did you cope with your personal feelings and emotions during such a traumatic time?
I cried a lot. I was really angry for a long time. And that was a hard thing for me to admit, how angry I was. I talked about it a lot because I needed to get it out of my head. And I did a lot of walking to just kind of move my body as I was trying to process it. Walking is one of my favorite things because it's so simple and so easy. And you can do it anywhere. But it was hard. And I had to allow myself to be angry. I had to allow myself to be disappointed. I had to allow myself to shift how I viewed someone because their life had shifted and their decisions about their life shifted. So it was hard. It was extremely hard to do it because I also then had to process all the crap that I went through as a kid simultaneously as I was thinking about my nieces and nephews and what I needed to do to help them. I had to put myself in their shoes. And I also had to put myself in my sister's shoes too, where I just realized that, you know, even though she and I grew up in the same household, there were things that were different between the two of us. And so we did turn out differently. And a big reason why I turned out differently is because I dove into therapy. Even before this started happening. I was already in therapy, so that when it happened and it was all unfolding, I knew what to do, even though I still needed to process it in real time. I still had a foundation of, you know, coping strategies to lean into to get myself through it.
Was it hard for you to, like, as a professional, you know, because we all have people in our lives, you know, it doesn't matter what you do for a living, that have some crazy stuff going on. But I think that when we are in it and we're so like right there, it's hard sometimes to kind of remove ourselves from the professional stance and allow that person to do what they need to do without trying to fix or control or do anything, you know, for them, because it's a very different perspective. It's not like a client that you're working that has come to you and said, hey, I need help. This is a family relative who's going through this and needs something that you can't give. How did you do that?
Not very well, to be perfectly honest. I didn't do it very well because, you know, whenever you get training and you get education in certain things, you know, unfortunately, it's good to have the education because you can understand why certain patterns happen and why, you know, certain things in life are cyclical. But the problem is what happened with me was I got really intellectual about a lot of what was going on when I needed to feel more. And that is a lesson, and that is a message that I've gotten, you know, quite often over the last few years. Think less, feel more. And so I was able to get through it by just allowing myself to be human and feel angry and feel confused and feel, you know, all the things that you don't really want to feel about somebody that you love so much. I had to do that. And it's, you know, dialectical thinking, like, you know, two things and multiple feelings can exist simultaneously. And that's a hard thing to own sometimes, that I can love someone so much and feel very protective of someone. And I can still be so angry and I can hate them sometimes. And that's a hard thing. Those are hard feelings to juggle. Those are hard things to juggle at the same time about one person, about one situation. It's hard. Yeah. So, and I'm still working on it. I'm much better now than I was when you know, we were all in the thick of things. But it was hard. And as a therapist, you know, there's a lot of ego involved in what we do. There truly is. And sometimes what we will do is we will shame ourselves and say, why didn't I see this coming? And why didn't I intervene sooner? And why couldn't I? Why didn't I think this way? And I had to let that go and just let myself be a sister.
Yeah. This is Kick Unhealthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. Amazing guest today, Melody Murray here, talking about her upbringing and what led her to this. But I have to throw out a word here, Melody, the word sugarcoat. And I looked it up before the show today. How do you define sugarcoat, and how do you use that or don't you use that in the work that you do with others?
Sugarcoating, to me, sugarcoating is putting a nice gloss on something that's really, really serious, but you don't want to deal it with the situation in a very honest way. You're trying to make light of it. You're just diminishing it or dismissing it. And I don't do that. And I think it's an absolute waste of time. I think that, you know, whenever you're having conversations with children, you have to be age appropriate in how you educate them on what is happening in life. You need to say things to them in an age appropriate way. And as they grow older, revisit certain things in more mature terms. But when it comes to dealing with an adult, that is the last thing that I'm going to do, because I think it's going to waste everybody's time. It is going to it's going to delay healing. It's going to delay discovery. It's going to delay a lot of necessary things that you need to just tackle. And I think that I don't think that it serves anyone at all to sugarcoat and to act like something isn't bigger than it actually is.
I love it. So you're there to validate the other person, the client, or the person that you're working with, correct?
Absolutely. I think that's most of what we as therapists do: validation and normalization.
Wow. So you've been on several different platforms, like Good Morning America, different things to get your message out. How important is it to get that message out to more people? I know doing podcasts and radio and TV, I mean, we can do in an office what we all do, but to get that message out to the masses, strength in numbers is important for Stephanie and I, but it seems like it's important for you as well.
It is. And it was the Today Show. I am gunning for Good Morning America, that's for sure. But I was on the third hour of the Today Show.
Okay.
You know, I feel like I heard something several years ago and it stuck with me. Mental health for the masses. You know, that I love doing hour by hour therapy, individual therapy with my clients. I absolutely love it. And I learn so much in those exchanges. But, you know, being able to reach more people at the same time, more people, I think it's necessary because we are all so connected and we are all as a collective going through the exact same things. We just are. And so the faster the message can get out to people, the better. And that's why I love doing podcasts and doing TV and now writing books and starting courses, because, you know, the more people can feel better about themselves, can learn how to feel better about the situations, the better we're all going to be as a society. You know, I want people to feel better as fast as humanly possible, because I know that there's a ripple effect to that. When I feel healthy and happy, so are my friends and so will my family. When they feel healthy and happy, it just trickles throughout their communities, through the families, through the communities. And so that's why it's so important to have forums like this and have platforms like this so that people can access information quickly so they can feel better faster.
And now I have a question for you, because I know Steve and we go back and forth on this sometimes. I know that for a lot of therapists, when they go through training, they're often told, like, don't share too much of your own information, just keep it about the client. And, you know, and the direction, there isn't as much direction being given. There's more like questions and self-assessment and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on that, about it being helpful or hurtful for clients to not, or even just from what you said, sharing that message of your own experiences out there? Do you think it's helpful or hurtful for clients that you have to hear your own story and be able to get some direction from you?
I think it's helpful because I've had so many clients say directly to me, thank you for saying that. I had no idea that you were going through the same thing or something similar. Thank you for saying that, because it helps me know that, you know, I'm not alone in my situation. It helps to know that other people have been through this thing, whatever that thing is. They've been through it. They've survived it. I think self-disclosure can be very, very powerful, you know, but I've seen it gone wrong. I mean, and I'm sure you guys have heard stories of it. I've heard some stories of therapists that are sharing things that have nothing to do with the client. It's the therapist dumping their stuff on their client. And that's why I'm a big fan of supervision, and I'm a big fan of therapists being in personal therapy. I think it should be a requirement that you have to be in your own personal therapy before you become a therapist. And then for a long time, you know, once you start that process of doing this work with people. But I think that, again, we are so similar. We all want the same things. We're all afraid of the same things. I think the differences are that we have different ways that we feel that we can accomplish our goals. We just look at things from different angles and we have different ways of thinking of accomplishing them, but we're more alike than we are dissimilar. So I think that, you know, self-disclosure can be extremely powerful for clients to know that they're not by themselves as they're trying to figure something out. Because again, our society is, even though we're very similar, we're becoming more and more isolated. And so people don't realize that they're not alone in what they're going through. They don't. They feel in a lot of ways that they're the only ones. And whenever they're in a situation with somebody that they respect, that they trust, and they hear that that person doesn't feel shame for talking about what they've gone through and are showing them that, yes, you can survive it, I think it helps.
I think you're absolutely right. And, Stephanie, we've been doing the show for 4 years now. And, little by little, I've been doing more self-disclosure in the work that I do. But I think it's important to know, because you brought up both sides of the fence here. Balance and boundaries are very important with any therapeutic relationship that you have. So I appreciate you sharing both sides of the fence here. So Melody, talk about the most rewarding aspect of the work that you do and the most challenging aspect.
Rewarding is when people start working with us. You guys know that typically people are coming at us at a crisis point. They, something has happened and they have tried everything that they normally do to help the situation along. And they are, they've hit a wall. So they're coming at us in a really tough spot. And so I find it really rewarding when, people are going throughout their lives. We've spent some time working together. They're going throughout their lives and something happens. Something happens. Life is always going to life. So when life starts lifing, they go, oh yeah, this happened. And I did this and I did this and I did this. How do you feel? I feel great. I feel fine. I'm fine with my decision. That is so amazing to me. That is so amazing to me that people are open to learning new ways to see things and new ways to do things. And then they actively do it. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I'm sorry, Steve, I can't remember the second part of your question.
The most challenging aspect of what you do.
Ooh, challenging is when you see someone heading off a cliff and they want to head off that cliff. And you have to set yourself aside and say, free will. Everyone has the opportunity to decide what they're going to do with their life. Everyone has the power to decide, how they're going to handle any particular situation. And so, being there for someone as they're going through a difficult situation when they haven't necessarily made the best decision, that's heartbreaking to me. It's heartbreaking to me when my clients are faced with, the people in their lives that have been the most toxic and the most damaging, and when clients don't want to own that this is how someone is built. This is how this person is built, and they don't want to own that. They don't want to deal with the years of evidence that they have seen about how this person operates and how harmful and destructive this person is. And they keep dipping their toe into that pool and they keep getting burned by it. So I find that really, really heartbreaking when someone keeps putting themselves in that position where their self-esteem hasn't raised quite enough just yet, where they can say, no, I'm not going to live this way. No, you don't have access to me.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to share, I actually just had a client where that happened. So when we help people like really heal from the toxic relationships, part of the new thing is then like, we call it educational dating. So like you start dating to learn what you want, like what do you want in a partner? So she had a date with a guy who, he didn't ghost her, but he canceled at the very last minute, like very, very last minute, like half an hour before the date was supposed to happen. And so we were like, all right, let's move on, cut that one. He's not the right guy for you, whatever. Well, she continued to talk to him and he would reach out every day and was looking for it like 3 times a day sometimes. And so she recently was like, oh, I'm going to go watch a football game. You want to come with my friend and I? And he was being kind of weird about it. So we said, flat out ask him what's going on. And he said, oh, I'm seeing someone else. So I don't think that would be very respectful. And we're like, the whole thing hasn't been respectful, the whole thing. And so she was like, well, we had told her, she's like, you told me, you warned me. And we're like, but that's okay. You needed to see for yourself. And of course, we're watching it. It's like we know exactly what's going to happen, but we're watching it. We want to protect her. We want to make sure she's protected. But she had to learn that lesson. So she was like, okay, next time when that happens, I'm not going to keep coming forward and trying for that. But I think, I was talking about this with my kids the other day. I think sometimes we just need to learn the lesson ourselves. As much as we might want to protect someone, sometimes you just have to get burned and realize, don't touch the flame.
Mm-hmm. And
Right.
that's something that really was driven home whenever I worked at the Seattle Children's Hospital in the emergency department, where we would have kids coming in crisis, and they don't meet criteria for hospitalization on this this particular stay, but you give them a crisis plan and you send them off into the world, and they come back a few weeks later and you ask them, did you try the crisis plan? Did you do this and did you do that, and did you see this coming and all these warning signs? Did you try the crisis plan? No. Why not? I forgot I had it. Oh, okay. So here, let's start this again. Sometimes, people will learn lessons because they're hearing it and they trust and they believe and they will learn the lessons. But sometimes you have to get burned and then you go, oh, okay. I get it now. I get it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're almost out of time, Mel. I can't believe how time flies here. And January flew by too. Quickly, what's your goals for 2024 and how can people connect with you?
Goals for 2024. I'm going to be releasing my second and third books this year. My bounce back plan is set for launch on March 15th. I've got another book about motherhood and choosing to do it and not to do it. That's coming out in September. Trying to get on Good Morning America and do some travel. I don't do resolutions anymore. My new thing is the word of the year, and my word of the year is expansion. So in any and all ways I could expand, that is what I'm going for, except for not my waistline. Not that.
Wow. And Melody, how can people get a hold of you?
Check out my website, melodylmft.com. That stands for Licensed Marriage and Family Therapist. And you can see, past, appearances, podcast experiences. There's products that you can buy on the website, and just keep up with what's going on. And there's a way that you can actually enter your information to be on my newsletter.
Wow. This has been amazing. We're going to have to get you back on. I know, Stephanie, You have a double dose of Melody today. So this is great.
Yeah, well, we got to get Melody's story out there. And I think it's, I was saying to Steve before we came on how easy it is to talk to Melody and how personable she is. And so, if anyone's looking for support, feel free to follow Melody, reach out to her and see all the great work that she's doing now and will continue to do moving forward.
Wow. Thank you so much, Melody, for joining us. And we'll look out for you for Good Morning America or any other big platforms. And don't forget your friends, Stephanie and Steve.
Never. Thank you, guys. This was so much fun. Thank you so much.
There you go.
Call me anytime. I'll be back anytime you want me.
All right. God bless. God bless. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And we'll see you down the road.
Happy New Year.
New Year.